Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coin Bureau. We are still here in Singapore. The Token 2049 conference wound down yesterday. It was an incredible event, and we're very lucky to have another special guest with us today, the one and only Alex van der Beek, the co-founder and CEO of Nansen. Now, Nansen, you may be familiar with. It's a blockchain analytics company, on-chain data, etc. They have a whole suite of products that if you're not using already, well, you should probably be thinking about it. So, Alex, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great. And can you tell us a little bit more about what Nansen does, how you came to start the company, and what services you guys offer?
Yeah, so we started building Nansen back in the last bear market, 2019. We launched the product April 2020, shortly after COVID started, and right before DeFi summer. So our early customers were basically what we refer to as degens in crypto, investors who are looking at DeFi protocols, yield farms, tokens that they can trade, and so on. Then we grew into the NFT space the year after in 2021. And effectively what these early users used Nansen for was to discover new assets. Mm-hmm. So that means protocols, tokens, NFTs, and so on, perform due diligence on them, and then get notifications when important events took place on chain. For example, a large investor selling or buying a specific token, etc. Since then, we've grown into do more things. I think of Nansen as kind of an information super app for Web3. And so we do portfolio tracking in addition to analytics. And we also have a research portal where you can get more of qualitative insights from our research analysts. So that's the part that's focused on the investors and funds, right? Which is our core customer segment. And then we've also built out an ecosystem team that works with many of the top crypto teams in the space, trying to better understand their customers, their users from on-chain activity, to understand the competition around them, mm-hmm. And to just generally make better decisions so that they can grow their ecosystem.
Yeah. And I guess one of the great things about about some of the tools that you offer is that they give these amazing insights into what's going on chain, what's happening out there, And we were talking off camera, weren't we, about how so many people fail to realize just how traceable and trackable crypto is. Yeah. It's a very sort of open industry if you know where to look, and I guess that's what you guys are helping provide.
I mean, this was kind of the premise of why we built the company, right? That blockchains represent a new paradigm. When you think of traditional finance, it's actually very opaque, right? In crypto, one of the differences, I would say it's an advantage, mm-hmm. is that you have this incredible degree of transparency, but that also means that you get a lot of noise, right? So the philosophy that we had was, if you want to get the real signal in terms of what's happening in the space, you have to look at what people are actually doing on chain.
Yeah.
And so instead of looking at what every single address is doing on chain, which is something you might do on a blockchain explorer and so on, we decided to focus on, for example, what's the smart money doing?
Yeah.
The addresses that are actually profitable in their trading. Why don't you try to surface the transactions that they're making, right? That's probably what you want to know. And so instead of looking at hundreds of millions of addresses, you might look at a few thousand addresses and say, are these addresses buying more risk-on assets?
Yeah.
Are they selling to go into stable coins? Which DeFi pools or DeFi protocols are they using? And so on and so forth. So I think this kind of changes the game for investors and traders if you compare it to stock markets, equities, because you have much more transparency and you can understand what the smart money is doing in real time. It also has benefits, I think, on the kind of regulatory side of things. We were just talking about how many banks think of crypto as kind of a bad thing and a scary thing, when in reality, it's much more traceable than something like cash, right? And over the years, I think the criminals that were using crypto maybe in the early years have realized that it's actually a terrible idea to use blockchains for any kind of nefarious activity. So I think it has advantages for traders and investors who can follow what other people are doing, and it also, I think, is a more transparent type of paradigm where you can avoid a lot of the nefarious activity that goes on in terms of money laundering and so on in the world.
Yeah, and that's important for changing people's perceptions of the industry, isn't it? Because as you said, a lot of people mistrust crypto and think that it's all, the whole sort of shadowy supercoders thing, isn't it? And it's all, people making these, dodgy transactions and being used for money laundering. And as you say, like it's not. It's totally transparent. You just need to know. You just need to have the right tools, and you guys are able to offer that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was thinking, because if for someone using Nansen, for someone using it to stay ahead, to look for good investment opportunities, I guess one of the things that arises is that these tools are great, but there comes a point where sort of everyone's using them. So I guess you're constantly needing to find new ways in order to get an edge. Is that something that you guys kind of work on in-house? Are you trying to develop new tools yourself?
I love that question because I think it's absolutely true. If everyone sees the same thing, it's no longer alpha.
Yeah.
You get the notion of alpha decay. And so with Nansen 2, which is the new product that we launched in early access this week, one of the key pillars of that is actually personalization.
Right.
And this is not something that we've focused so much on in Web3, but you would have a different investment strategy than I have, right? And if you, for example, connect your portfolio or you track all of your holdings with Nansen, we can then personalize the experience for you so that we show you digital assets, tokens, NFTs, etc., that you might be interested in, but that I am not interested in. And by doing that, everyone gets kind of their own unique perspective, and you can customize the experience more, which means that, in crypto, there are so many tokens, NFTs, DeFi protocols, etc., that there's room enough for everyone, I think, to kind of create their own little corner where they can have an edge. And the thinking is really that, we want to personalize the user experience and allow people to develop their own investment strategies. So in Nansen 2, what we've done is we've combined our portfolio tracking product with the analytics product. And so that means you can keep track of your own holdings. You can also keep track of other wallets that you want to track and see what they're doing. You can even create your own smart segments where you define criteria. Like, for example, I want to follow anyone who has more than $1 million in Unibot and Friend.tech or any other niche token.
Yeah.
And that segment, I can create alerts for it. I can filter my dashboards based on that segment. So the whole experience becomes much more personalized, and it gives you a unique view, which I think is actually from the beginning what I thought was exciting, that you can carve out these different perspectives and everyone sees something different. And it gives you a feeling of discovery, which, by the way, is why we named our company Nansen. It comes after a polar explorer.
Right.
So the feeling of discovering new things, seeing things for the first time, that's always been part of the product experience.
Great. Sorry to interrupt you folks, but I have to let you know about the Coin Bureau deals page. Now, my team and I have been able to pull together some of the best promos and discounts in the crypto space. We're talking trading fee discounts of over 50%, thousands of dollars in bonus airdrops, amazing deals at top exchanges, reduced prices on hardware wallets, and much, much more besides. So just go to coinbureau.com/deals, also linked to below, and find the promo suited to you. Enjoy the rest of the video. Yeah, and I guess because everyone's investment strategy, everyone's way of analyzing and looking at information is going to be different. And if you can personalize that and have it your own sort of personal dashboard, as it were, that's surely something that's going to offer people a lot of value.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you have to combine this, right? There's the personalization piece. There's also the search piece where you just want to find things very, very fast.
Yeah.
We've improved in Nansen 2. And the third piece is what we call signals. So we can't rely on our users, spending an insane amount of time just looking through everything that happens on chain. So there's also an element of push where we are surfacing signals, which is the mission of our company, to the user. But you can also personalize those signals, right? Here's a big transaction that happened on a token that you care about, but maybe I don't care about it.
Yeah.
Then we don't want to litter my feed with stuff that is less interesting to me. We want to highlight the stuff that's relevant to you. So I think if you are able to, have a product where you can search for things very fast, you can personalize it so that you can keep track of everything you're interested in one place. And then we can also help you get those signals.
Yeah.
That's when you create this information super app of Web3.
Yeah. And I guess there is such a thing as too much information, isn't there? Sometimes
Absolutely.
it becomes noise. And if you're able to filter out what you don't need and focus on what you do, that's going to save you time, and it's going to optimize your strategy.
Yeah, 100%. I think noise is one of the big challenges in crypto, and that's why we created the company. So.
Yeah. Well, that leads me quite nicely on to what I wanted to talk about next. We're obviously in a bear market at the moment. One of the advantages, I think, of bear markets is that the noise disappears.
Mm-hmm.
It gets dialed right down, and the hype kind of goes away, and you're left. Obviously, people move away from the space, people get discouraged or whatever, but those who are left, there are some great opportunities. And because that noise has dissipated somewhat, it's kind of easier to see what really, hear what really counts. So I just wanted to get your view on what you see at the moment. The market sentiment seems very low. Prices have obviously been pretty sideways, especially for the last few weeks and months. So, what's your view on where we are at the moment?
Yeah, to me, this feels a lot like 2019. Mm-hmm. If I want to think in terms of the cycle of crypto, 2019 was a year when prices were quite depressed.
Yeah.
Many people had given up because we had a disastrous year before, 2018, just like we had a disastrous year with 2022.
Yeah.
But it was also a year when many new revolutionary products came to market or were being built. So think of Uniswap, Compound, Aave, a lot of these MakerDAO, a lot of these products either came to market or really started to get early traction in 2019. And some great products were starting to get built there, like Nansen, of course. Mm-hmm. In 2023, I feel like we're seeing similar things. We've kind of washed out a lot of the tourists.
Yeah.
There's less endless forking of protocols on chain number 67, right? And instead, you're starting to see products that are genuinely novel, right? They're trying to do new things. And of course, many of these products will not succeed, but I think some of them will. And there are some themes that we've spotted. I think the one that's top of mind for me right now is probably Friend.tech.
Yeah.
So Friend.tech is interesting because it's actually visible on-chain in terms of its activity.
Yeah.
It generates fees to the protocol because of people using it. It has a high degree of users playing around with it. And at the same time, when I speak with people at the conference here in Singapore at Token 2049, I get the sense that many people are not yet on it.
Yeah.
Many people are still not engaging with it, but the hardcore folks who maybe were the first ones to use DeFi protocols back in 2019, 2020, many of them are on it.
Wow.
And so there's a sense that this is something that's new. It's not just a fork of an existing product. It's an example of someone trying to build a new type of product. And you're seeing it on-chain with the usage and so on, 150,000 plus users of it in a bear market, right? So I think that's promising. There are a few other things that you don't see yet on-chain, but I think you will see them. For example, the continuation of stable coins into T-bills.
Yes.
So tokenized real-world assets.
Yeah.
That's something that I predict will be quite important next year. And it'll be interesting to see how the stablecoin flows will maybe evolve into T-bills in some cases, right? Because what's the point of holding stablecoins in your wallet if you could be holding something that accrues yields over time?
Yeah.
It feels a lot like a stablecoin. So that'll be interesting to see the dynamics around that. A third interesting trend, or something that I think is going to be quite important over the next few months and also next year, is the area of Web3 Gaming.
Yes.
Which I think has gone through the hype cycle where it peaked 2021, early 22 in terms of fundraising. But the reality is, if you raise a lot of money to build a Web3 game, it takes time to build a game.
Yeah.
And so now I think we're at the point where we're going to see games actually coming to market. We're seeing some signs of this in terms of tokens that are Web3 gaming related, or NFT collections that are starting to get some activity on chain in terms of transactional volume and so on. And I think these games, most of them are going to fail. Most of them are not going to be very popular. But if you get a handful that can reach, genuine stickiness, acquisition of new users, that could be a really nice catalyst for an upcoming bull market.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've talked about Web3 gaming with other people before, and I think, really, in fact, you only need perhaps one to go absolutely ballistic, absolutely stratospheric, and that can be enough to sort of supercharge the whole sector.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things that I found from Token 2049 and talking to people at the conference and also at events around it, I noticed that there was a lot of focus on Web3 gaming. I spoke to a few people sort of starting projects, and what I was really kind of encouraged by was that virtually all of them sort of started by saying, we're focusing on gameplay.
Yeah.
We're trying to get that right, because I think they've learned from the idea that, it's great. It's great to have a token. That's cool. There's a lot of potential there. But if no one's going to play the game, it's a waste of time.
100%. That's probably you're going to have the second generation of Web3 games.
Yeah.
And you're right. It has to be focused on the gameplay. I think maybe that means in the short term, it will perhaps be at the expense of the token holders, in the sense that, and this is, I think, the right move for Web3 gaming teams that have maybe raised money, they've issued a token, they have an NFT collection. I don't think they should be that focused on making sure the price stays high. They should be focused on making sure it's a great game, and then the tokenomics, of course, they can figure out afterwards.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's a source of potential alpha for people to actually just dig through what are all the different Web3 games that are launching, which ones are genuinely fun.
Yeah.
Try them out, understand, what's their plan with regards to how to integrate the token into the game. And the pioneers of Web3 gaming, Axie Infinity by Sky Mavis being the most notable one. They were the first ones out the gate. I don't think you can expect a project like that to get everything right in the first iteration.
Yeah.
You have to take what are the good parts that worked with that. You have to learn from it, and you have to iterate. And I think, frankly, Sky Mavis, Axie Infinity, and the Ronin chain are going to be very important in this new second generation of Web3 games too.
Yeah. Learning from not necessarily past mistakes, but learning kind of what worked and what didn't, I guess. Yeah.
And I think we shouldn't underestimate the impact that Axie Infinity had in getting millions of people who would otherwise never use crypto to set up a wallet, to start transacting. And it's, possibly one of the most impactful projects in that sense.
Yeah.
And I think it's super exciting to see what this will create, because traditionally, the way that people have gotten into crypto has been through investing in crypto. But that means you limit the audience for who can engage with crypto to those who have disposable income, or disposable savings rather, that they can invest. But there's a whole, there's billions of people who actually, don't have the means to invest and speculate in crypto.
Yeah.
And if you can have something like Play to Earn, or even Friend.tech, allows you to generate crypto for the first time through people trading your account and so on. I think that's really promising, actually. And you need other on-ramps for people than just investing and speculation. Yeah,
that's one of the things that we've talked about a few times on the channel. It's like, one of the use cases for crypto, if you like, is fun. It's not just, as you say, just about investing, but people's, feeding into people's, greater online lives, part of which is taken up by things like gaming, social media.
Yeah. I often say that crypto is not an extension of finance, it's an extension of entertainment.
Yeah.
Right? It makes more sense to think about it that way. And if you go on crypto Twitter and you see all the crazy things that happen, it is pretty entertaining.
Yeah. It certainly keeps keeps eyeballs even when market sentiment is pretty low, doesn't it? Just before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you a little bit more, because Token 2049, you were there the other day as well. Can you just give me your thoughts on how you thought the conference went, the sort of vibe, the attitude of people there, and also because we're here in Singapore, and just get your thoughts on kind of Asia and the Asian market more generally.
Yeah, I think Token 2049 is probably the leading crypto conference in the world right now. I think they have a lot of momentum. They have really high quality speakers, lots of interesting people who show up from all sorts of sectors within crypto. They're also, I think, building on that Asia momentum that we're seeing. Of course, we know many companies, funds, etc., are looking to either leave the US or at least diversify away from the US. And it's natural to look at Asia, either Dubai, Singapore, Hong Kong, and so on. So I think that the conference was amazing. I thought the vibes were great. I met super interesting people.
Yeah.
The folks I spoke with also, I think, had a similar perception that this is a great conference and that Singapore is an amazing place to be either a crypto founder or a crypto investor.
Yeah.
So I'm super bullish on both Token 2049, but also Singapore specifically. I moved to Singapore maybe at the peak of the hype of Singapore as a crypto hub. And then we had a disastrous year with things like 3 Arrows Capital, Terra, HODL Not here locally, FTX, which impacted retail investors in Singapore.
And Temasek, I think it was.
They were an investor in FTX. So definitely 2022 was a pretty disastrous year for Singapore. But I think also the regulators see the potential in blockchain as a technology. They are actively, working on white papers. MAS, they've produced a white paper on purpose-bound money and things like that. And then you see, for example, Grab, which is our local super app when it comes to transport, food delivery, and so on. They just launched a Web3 wallet with Polygon, also collaborating with Circle. So I think you have all the ingredients to create one of the main crypto hubs in the world here in Singapore. I like to say it's a place where East meets West, where technology meets finance, and also where the private sector meets the public sector in a very productive way.
Yeah.
You have very competent government here, as opposed to many other countries around the world. And Singapore, I think, has a track record and a history of making, both innovating and having a very pro-business environment.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to compare and contrast it with Dubai, which is where we're based now. Which is kind of a similar thing, and there's a lot of overlap. I think these relatively small places, kind of newish players in some way, but taking advantage of the fact that regulations are unclear in so many other places, like the US, for instance, and alert to the fact that there is this exciting new industry. That needs clear regulation, but presents a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. In terms of similarities, both Dubai and Singapore are places where you have no natural resources. You have to attract talent and capital, and for that reason, these are places that have always been quite pro-business. That's very compatible with being a crypto hub, right? Because crypto is fundamentally digital. And you don't need a specific type of natural resource in order to be a crypto hub or to have to have the foundation for that, right? So I think the differences, though, are probably visible in the sense that Dubai has been a bit more aggressive in trying to attract crypto companies. Singapore has tried to preserve its status as a financial hub, so they had to balance it. They don't want to scare away banks, more traditional financial players. And so they're trying to find ways to make crypto institutionally more friendly, let's say. And at the same time, they've been quite, I would say, paternalistic when it comes to their approach to retail investors, right? They try to make sure that retail investors aren't impacted by, things like Terra or FTX, which frankly, many of them were impacted by locally. So there are definitely similarities in the sense that, they are great places to build a foundation for crypto hubs, but their approach seems to be a little bit different. And I think they have different strategies that might attract different types of funds, companies, investors, and so on.
Yeah. I must say, I've been in Singapore now for the last few days, first time here, and I think one of my big takeaways is not just from Token 2049, but from Singapore in general, is I'm leaving a lot more bullish than when I came in, because I think there is this real energy about the place. there is a lot of positivity, about crypto in this part of the world that is lacking. It's not lacking in Dubai, but it is lacking in other places. And when you combine that with the market sentiment that we talked about earlier, it can be tempting to feel quite bearish. But actually, what I've seen over the last few days is an industry that is still really vibrant. There's still so much stuff being built.
100%.
No one, I don't think anyone I spoke to at the conference mentioned price at all. No, as so many people said, it doesn't feel like a bear market.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's cool with Singapore because you have a very balanced crypto ecosystem here.
Yeah.
You have builders and you have investors. You have both large multinational corporations like Coinbase, Binance, Crypto.com present here, but you also have many of the local DeFi protocols, kind of innovative projects like Base DApp, which allows you to use your debit card and connect it to a smart contract wallet in Polygon. Mm-hmm. So you can literally go, on the MRT here and pay for your public transport with crypto, right? So there are lots of interesting projects here, and it's very well balanced, right? There are many other places where you might try to kind of bootstrap that crypto ecosystem, but you, at the end of the day, only have investors. You don't have the builders.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge, right? So I think Singapore has that right mix of builders and investors, and it has that mix of large companies and smaller ones as well.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense that you guys are based here because, Nansen is a great product, a great platform. It sounds like you guys are working on a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
Lots to come in the future. And it's been great to talk to you, Alex. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. And good luck with everything that you guys are working on and building.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Thanks for watching, everyone. And thanks for keeping up with what we've been up to here in Singapore. We'll be back with some more updates very, very soon.